call, please.
Commissioner Ginger?
She's here.
Yes.
Is she? She's here.
Commissioner Warren?
He does it different from last
Commissioner
time.
Eastman?
Here.
Mayor Welch?
There. You do it different.
If you wish to, we're going to have a prayer, and we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Our Father in heaven, please bless this gathering. Bless our city workers. Bless our emergency services. Ask that you lay your hand on us and let your word known. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No, there's not.
I so move that we approve the agenda as printed in.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's the approval of the agenda. I have a proclamation. If you want to step forward and socially distance. Whereas the second full week of September has been designated as National Direct Support Professionals Recognition Week in order to annually celebrate and recognize professionals who provide support to millions of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And whereas this celebration recognizes the dedication and the vital role of direct support professionals in enhancing the lives and protecting the well-being of individuals with disabilities of all ages. Whereas the community plays a role in lifting up direct support professionals as integral in supporting the needs of people with disabilities and their families through service systems across the United States. And whereas the goals of this city and its Equal Opportunity and Accessibility Advisory Board properly give recognition to those who directly help people with disabilities to gain full access to housing, employment, and recreational activities that help to create productive and satisfying lives, and also to live as independently as possible. Now therefore, I, Karen Welch, Mayor of the City of Kansas City, do hereby proclaim September 13th through the 19th, 2020 as Direct Support Professionals Recognition Week. In the City of Kansas City, call upon the city and citizens of Kansas City to observe this week with appropriate programs and activities. Furthermore, I encourage the citizens of Kansas City to seek information from those organizations with expertise in matters concerning professionals who support individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I could hardly breathe.
Good to have you, Layne.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service.
We have recognition.
What's that of them?
And there they go.
That's great.
Chairs are open.
Andrew, we have any visitors?
Might want to introduce Les.
Yeah,
You
Les.
probably all know him, but
Where is he?
There he is.
There he is.
Hey, Les. Just want to Introduce you guys, I think everybody knows him, so it's not really an introduction, but Les Parks is going to be the interim fire chief for a little while as we go through the process of replacing Chief Wolf from his
Okay.
retirement. So,
He's gonna have to watch out for his
Congrats,
door.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
He almost got his door taken off by
I think I raised
me.
him from a small little fireman.
Tell her you're ready.
Oh, my goodness, I am. Anybody else?
No.
Consent agenda. Approve the August 18th, 2020 regular meeting minutes as written. Resolution authorizing a public meeting of the governing body to attend a public building commission meeting at 5:15 Tuesday, September 15th, 2020 in the commission room at City Hall. And approve personnel policy update, organizational structure. Questions? I have a question. What is this organizational structure? How's it changed?
We did a reorganization last summer, like in July. And so all it did was, instead of referring to public works, it refers to public services, made environmental services department instead of a division. So all it is doing is updating our policy on organizational structure to match our organizational structure.
Oh, okay,
It's pretty straightforward.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I move we can approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There's no old business, we have new business number 1.
Item 1, consider first reading of a charter ordinance amending provisions of charter ordinances 7, 12, 15, 21, 24, and 34 regarding the city-owned medical center, providing substitute and additional provisions relating thereto, and modifying municipal code so reflect.
Okay, do we have some discussion?
I think Larry's got
We have Larry.
some updates.
The hospital attorney did reach out to me, and we discussed this ordinance, and they're pretty much okay with the provisions of it. But they had one question that I would like to ask you all to let me consider with them for a couple of weeks. I'd like to have a second reading, and that is the issue of the office of the trustee. It's something from my perspective I wouldn't have thought of, but from the way that they operate, we need to take a look at it. And the reason it's a legal issue is because it's in the statute, it's a statutory office. We need to look at how that office is gonna function since we have an administrator. It's an interesting question, so I would propose putting this on for a second reading. Let us look at that. And the good news is, I think every other issue, except for maybe some verbiage, we're in agreement on.
Okay.
And that, you're talking about maybe not using the word treasurer since they already have CFO and all these other positions.
It's not quite that simple, though, because it's a
Yeah.
statutory office.
You have to,
So I wanna look and see what we
Alright.
can do.
So you wanna table it?
So-
Yes, the question becomes, with the trustee, or with a treasurer, is, the statute says they have to spend money. They have to be the ones to do it. Gotta find out, that's not structurally what happens, is how
Right.
we can make it legal, so that when you sign a piece of legislation, it actually is legal.
So
Okay, so,
moved.
Well, I got one question under D3, the trustees' powers and duties. On 3, it says they have the power to appoint a suitable chief CEO, which is fine, fix his or her compensation, remove such appointee. The last part is, or in the alternative, they can contract with a third party to operate and manage the medical center.
That,
Would we want the trustees to make that decision without the cities? I don't know if the city would want that. I mean, hopefully we'll always get along and we can work together, but I don't know. That was my question.
you mean to hire?
Yeah, to hire it, to contract with a third party.
Yeah.
The last part, to contract with a third party to operate and manage the medical center. The rest, I'm fine with that. It's just that last bit is, would you
Yeah.
want the hospital trustees to say, we just hired with a third party for $1 million a year and there's nothing you can do as a city-owned I mean, that would be that's my only question I had.
And that is an
So-
excellent question. That is the verbiage that we are gonna talk about. I said there was
All right,
the
sounds good.
treasurer
Yep.
issue and some verbiage. You found it, and
So-
so we'll be looking at that. Because the statutory language just simply says, enter into a contract for services with the CEO. So we'll look at that and bring to you what we believe your intent is.
Sounds good.
So,
Okay.
so
Well-
moved to table.
Second. The item's been moved to table till
Don't go yet.
Okay.
next meeting. All those in favor say aye.
No, do you have more discussion?
Yeah, gosh dang, you're in a hurry. You'll bring that to us for a work session, or can you get
Yes,
us that
yes.
change in verbiage beforehand?
Yes, yes.
'Cause,
It'd be my goal to have it the Friday before that work session. Or the
With-
Friday of the work session before the next commission meeting.
Yeah.
I was on the commission when we went through with Virgil, and there was some discussion about creating or getting a third party. And at that time, it was the city commission, and since it's the trustees are appointed by the city commission, and the hospital's still a city entity, can you get that cleared up or some way to fix that? So, I think it's still the city's responsibility to oversee that part of it, because that's a pretty serious thing. If you have a third party, you gotta, instead of the trustees doing it, maybe both of them can do it in conjunction with the city.
Yes, that's what we'll be looking
Is
at.
that what you're looking at? So that's just what I've had a little bit of concern back when that was going on.
Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
No. Yes, on your vote.
Do you have another question?
No?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Thanks, Larry.
Say aye.
Favor,
Aye.
table, and aye.
We'll table that till next meeting. Will that be long enough, Larry?
That will be long.
Okay. Number 2.
Consider first reading of an ordinance authorizing the vacating of that portion of Fifth Avenue from the west line of the mill canal to the west line of Sixth Street and Sixth Street from Washington Avenue to Fifth Avenue, all located in North Kansas City.
Josh?
Sure. Well, this request is technically a city request. It was sort of brought to our attention by the Recreation Commission, though. There were some safety concerns in this general area, especially during IRQ camp and when the pool's open. So the proposal was to close off some of these streets in this area to make it to where it's parking instead of
Through
road. That would make it a little bit safer in that area. This is a little bit better map of the area. That would also require the bridge there over the canal to become a pedestrian-only bridge. Of course, the bridge is still being taxed, so if you ever had to use it for whatever reason, we could still remove barriers and make that possible, but right now, it doesn't seem to be a big of an issue. The other thing is the pool right now does not have very much parking. That technically the lot to the northwest is kind of their parking, but we've been to the pool, we know that's not used a lot. Most of the people park along Fifth Avenue. So this would maybe open up an opportunity for that. The Technical Advisory Committee did have some concerns about the utilities in the area, so that's why in the ordinance, it's listed that we would retain the utility easement over that entire area. There was also some accessibility concerns for both the park and the pool, which will hopefully be able to be addressed by future plans, not just this vacation, obviously, but some of the other stuff there. This has been recommended by a number of boards as well, the Beautification Advisory and Tree Advisory Board, the Equal Opportunity and Accessibility Advisory Board, and the Traffic Safety Committee. It's unusual for us to have so many recommendations for a project like this to go through, but that was the case. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on August 11th and did vote to recommend to you that you vacate these two streets. I don't have a really good map that shows exactly what it is, but basically it's from the bridge at the canal back to the intersection of 6th and
Fifth. And then Sixth Street down to the north right away of Washington. It wouldn't close the intersection of Washington and Sixth Street, because that's obviously still needs to be a 3-street.
What are the plans actually for if it's vacated and closed on the bridge? What are the plans for the city's going to do, or the well, it's the pool uses it the most, and the rec center. So what are the plans? Are there any plans right now, or is it just to vacate it?
Do you want to address that a little bit? Or?
There's a concept. I wouldn't say it's a fully fledged plan because vacating is a necessary step before any changes are made there. I was hoping Deb Davidson would be able to make it tonight because it's kind of her idea. But basically, what we're thinking is put barriers across the bridge so that vehicular access is not allowed anymore, which would then protect the hike bike trail once that comes through, and it would eliminate a crossing in that project. And then there's a couple of options. Initially, what we were discussing, well, what Deb had proposed was kind of taking out Fifth Avenue between the pool and the park, and maybe taking that back to grass, which would reduce, of course, the amount of asphalt that we have to maintain. But we've since discussed it. Randy had the idea that it might be better to look at that as more of a dead-end parking lot area, especially because the condition of the pavement in that northwest parking lot is really degraded quite a bit. So we could maybe shuffle it around. The 6th Street would not really be eliminated. What we're thinking is that would be more like extending the ag building parking lot essentially all the way to the park boundary. So not only would it increase the available parking space, but it gives us the opportunity to go in there and resurface. And we need to put in ADA spots. We're woefully behind on the ADA for both the park and the pool. So right now, no immediate changes, but to have the legal right to take those streets out, you need to vacate them first. We just thought we'd get that piece out of the way, and then we could have a more detailed discussion with the rec center and do what we need to do, up to and possibly including some kind of a master plan study of the area.
Now, they'll still be able to go around to 7th Street.
Yeah, 7th Street would stay open behind the ag building. That would,
Fifth Avenue go into the parking area there west of the,
what Deb had envisioned was kind of a turnaround, roundabout sort of drop off there where the current intersection is. Let me pull the map back up.
Yeah, I think there's going to be
So she was envisioning kind of a roundabout area there. And you could do that and then.
So you go down to Washington, behind the ag building on
Right, yeah, so your
7th, down
primary
West
access would be to
5th,
come
and
in
then come
behind.
around 6th Street. So you
Exactly.
basically
Sixth
circle
Street would
ag,
be gone.
you'd technically circle the ag building.
Yeah, and if you were gonna do it that way, then you'd probably take out that section of 6th Street, basically parallel to the tennis courts. But the section to the south would not be affected. To do that though, we would need to make some improvements on 7th Street because it gets pretty narrow there as you're rounding the corner and there's some drainage issues. So that's something I think we're gonna have to look at comprehensively with Tony's department and with the traffic safety committee to figure out what the best long-term option is. I don't think there's any immediate plan really to do anything other than probably close that bridge, which would also have the nice effect of lengthening the lifespan of the bridge because it won't be bearing the kind of weight access.
So basically just close the bridge down right at the current time?
At least by the time we get to the point of doing the hike bike trail construction, which at this point is looking more like next summer. Until Evergy is done, probably we wouldn't change anything at this point, and there's no real need to at this point until the next IYQ camp cycle comes around.
Okay.
But this is a good off-season to look at doing it, since we probably, we won't have the car show in there, so really, we're just kind of looking at some ways to maybe save some costs for the city, but also improve the area. It'll make it just kind of a cohesive complex, and for IYQ camp, they're bouncing from the ag building to the park to the pool constantly. And it just makes sense to not have straight through streets that allow for that kind of issue.
She doesn't have any more plans other than that, just to vacate it right now?
Well, like I said, she'd like to grass over Fifth Avenue and put that roundabout in. I think we need to look at if that's really the best option.
Yeah.
Personally, and this is just me talking, this is not the city, I think a master plan would not be a bad idea for this area. And we could do that as part of the comprehensive plan, which we're just in the very infant stages of. Because I really think the rec center has got to be a part of that, obviously. I think the college needs to be a part of it. Just because they're adjacent, they use the ag building for tennis. And I think we all just kind of need to get together and figure out what's the future of this entire area, what kind of changes are we gonna make, you know, if any. Because they're wanting to put exercise stations in Paris Park, they got a grant for them. And we need to make sure those are, one, ADA accessible, which right now, nothing in Paris Park is, not even the shelters or the playground equipment. We need to do quite a bit of improvement in that regard. And two, make sure we put them somewhere that isn't gonna conflict with either Evergy's project or the hike bike trail route. So there's already planning that needs to go on, and I just think we can build on that and figure out more of a long-term vision for it.
So this is a first time this is being brought up here.
To you, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been working on this kind of all summer off and on with the different boards, and
Well,
actually, it
and-
first came up in March, I think.
I've talked to a number of people that just got wind of this through whatever sources they had, and they're very concerned about it. Once we vacate a road, we can't get it back. And I'd like to see this tabled. You're talking about not needing anything done until next year, until IYQ camp comes up again.
Well, part of the
we've got-
reason we're asking you to do this now is because we do need to submit final plans for the hike bike trail in the not too distant future. I think Chris
Well, I
is.
thought that was already done.
No, they're still working on several different conflict areas. So KDOT is kind of pressuring us to get at least some preliminary engineering turned in. One of the key decision points is, does that road close or not? Because we already have to put in crossings on Washington, Madison, and Summit. And the Summit crossing in particular is gonna be quite expensive. So we are asking that you, if we're gonna do this, we would like to make the decision so that we can take that crossing on Fifth Avenue completely out of the equation and get that plan submittal taken care of. That would be the one reason to do it now.
On Fifth Avenue. So you're talking
The
about.
bridge,
Huh?
at the bridge.
Right, but that's a very, I mean, that would not add a lot to the costs. Correct.
There's signage and some other things that we probably need to look at doing.
Chief, is Fifth Avenue in front of the pool during pool time about the only time you see a vehicle on Fifth Avenue?
Yeah, it's not very heavily traveled at all.
Did you do the counter thing on Fifth Avenue at any time?
I offered to pull the count from the most recent map, because that question came up with the planning commission about through traffic, and then they ended up not, they went ahead and made the decision, but, I mean, we could look into that if you'd like us to.
Well, I was just,
Well,
Well, I
I
talked to
know,
be
several
something to do.
college students just randomly, and they said, we use that bridge. We-
Deb's impression from being down there more than anyone is that college students do drive through that area, but
Mhm.
we questioned what the need necessarily was, because the way that it's set up, you know, they could still parallel around the dorm area with the existing streets. So it's kind of a question of, I mean, I just don't know. I don't have the data for you on that. But we did consult the college, and there were college officials at the planning commission meeting, and none of them raised any concerns from their perspective.
Well, they can go to Fourth Street, because it's right there.
Well, and there was a question
East.
about, you know, north-south access and to what degree that's utilized, but because, you know, you can take Fifth down to Fourth and still connect to Washington, it doesn't really throw you much out of the way on that regard. Basically, since the college put Wren Memorial Library smack dab in the middle of Fifth Avenue, it has really ceased to be a
Yeah.
major east-west access. It's cut off there, and it's cut off at the raised railroad bed, just to the west of the ag building. So from the start, we were kind of like, this isn't really a through street anymore, so if we section it off one more time to protect the areas that it's developed into, is that really gonna have an impact? And the other boards came to the conclusion that it would not.
Well, I'd like some more time on it.
And it's certainly your prerogative.
You
to
know,
go through
personally,
this.
I'm not down there enough to know the count. It'd be nice to hear from Deb Davidson personally. I mean, she spends a lot of time down there in the summer months, and she's down there that sees the traffic, sees the cars. She's the one that's got to get the kids from IYQ from one place to the next, and that IYQ program is very successful, and it is something a lot of the kids and a lot of the community use. And I hate to just say no. I'd like to at least get her opinion on it, and I think there's probably a good plan here, but I want to hear I'd like to hear from her
Okay.
and get her safety concerns, see what she has to say. And, you know, it's nice to know the college doesn't have concerns with that bridge over there on Fifth Avenue gets
The ag-
closed off. I mean, it'd be nice to see that and then see what would be a normal, I think for the parents, or at least those who have kids down there, what would be a normal way to get access to the ag building, to get kids, drop kids off? How would that flow? And I think some of those questions getting answered would help some. I think I understand it, but it'd be nice to see her thoughts on it and get her take on it all.
That's
Yeah.
what- Yeah.
If you want to table it, I'll see if she can be at the next work session. 'Cause
And that'd
she-
be fi-
she-
yeah, even the
She
work
really
session's
can
fine,
speak
yeah.
more passionately and intelligently about it.
I just
than
don't think
can,
I have
'cause
enough.
Trying to get a vehicle count too for us, because
I will,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll look on the
in-house
count map and see what we
emergency
have, and if we don't
vehicles
have
gonna
that
get in
segment,
Pardon?
then,
With
I
all
said
that
I'll look on
blocked
the
off.
map we have.
Cause you're talking about putting.
Okay.
If we don't
barriers
have
up.
that segment, then we'll have to do the sign or something.
Okay.
I mean, I would
I
imagine
don't
most
think
of
there's
those
that many.
kids that go down Fifth Avenue from the college are just doing it to avoid, unfortunately, the brick streets, or to get around to 8th Street quicker and speed on around and get out. I mean, that,
Yeah.
it's probably more for that than anything. I mean,
Check
that's just me thinking if I was this 18 or
check with
19-year-old
emergency
kid.
Good,
services to see if
what I
this
would do.
disrupts them getting to that area.
did you talk to them, emergency services? I mean, fire
Well, I
department?
mean, yeah, we
They were
talked
there,
about this,
weren't
the
they?
traffic safety committee, there weren't any concerns raised. They come in on
With the
Washington.
traffic safety committee.
Oh, please, he's there.
Like if there's an
Yeah, but
incident at the
that's
pool, they would
that's
come
fine.
down Washington and then up 6th Street generally.
I personally don't think there's a big problem with the college wanting to use it, the college students, because I don't think any of the college employees use it,
Right. It's
unless
just
they
the
mow down there,
students.
so. Have her come back on next meeting, so.
I move we table.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 3.
Consider a resolution authorizing the city to enter into a contract with APAC-Kansas, Shears Division of Wichita for the City Connecting Link Improvement Program Surface Preservation Grant for South Summer Street Resurfacing Project for amount not to exceed $261,592.40.
We went out for bid, we received 4 bids. APAC-Kansas Inc. Shear Division was the lowest bid. It was $41,098 lower than the second lowest bid. On this grant, we pay 100% of engineering design at $25,000. Then KDOT pays 90% of the construction engineering, and inspection. So based on that, we're looking at a projected project cost of $328,432. KDOT will reimburse us $273,089. So the city's cost for this project is $55,343.24. So the mill and overlay and put new pavement stripings down.
And this is from Madison to,
Right, Summit
South.
from Madison to Tyler, where
yeah,
they stopped
which is,
when they did the
Stop.
south.
yeah, okay.
They'll connect to that.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you for your work on that, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I will move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city of Arkansas City to enter into a contract with APAC-Kansas Incorporated Shears Division of Wichita for asphalt mill and overlay, pavement markings, and sidewalk ramps for the Kansas Department of Transportation City Connecting Link Improvement Program Surface Preservation Grant for the South Summit Street Resurfacing Project US 77 from South Junction US 166 to Madison Avenue for an amount not to exceed, what was it?
$261,592.40.
We have $25,000 added into.
No, you already approved the design engineering contract.
Okay, all right, so it's $261,000? $261,592.40.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second authorizing Arkansas City to enter a contract with APAC Shears Division of Wichita. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Number 4.
Consider a resolution accepting a quote submitted by Layne Christensen Company of Wichita to video and rehabilitate water well number 9 for an amount not to exceed $15,880.
Good evening.
All right.
Hi. Yeah, we pulled the pump out of well 9. It had started pumping down. So in other words, the pump wanted to pump more water than was coming through the screen into the well. So, we're at the point now where we wanna, rehabilitate the well. That'd be acidizing the screen and try to open it up. And then, we'll also superchlorinate it in case there's any iron bacteria growing on the screen or in the gravel pad. And after we do that, then we'll, video and make sure everything looks good. Then, we'll, use a test pump, see what kind of yield we can get out of the well. And that's where we'll end up with this quote, so.
So any questions?
End up with what?
That's the point we'll end with.
Okay.
This quote. But in the future, once we get that pump test, well, then I'll come back and with a cost to actually build a pump, you know, where we can, pump it efficiently at whatever yield it should be able to put out.
Okay.
And get some more life out of the well.
Any other questions, concerns? Action?
Do it. Oh.
I'll make a motion authorizing resolution that we accept the quote submitted by Layne Christensen Company of Wichita to video and rehabilitate water well number 9 for an amount not to exceed $15,880.
Second.
Have a motion to accept the quote submitted by Layne Christensen Company of Wichita. All those in favor? Say
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
Number 5.
Consider first reading of an ordinance approving the form of and authorizing the execution of an interlocal cooperation agreement respecting the financing of the acquisition of certain real property at Strotherfield Airport Industrial Park.
Yes, Jim?
Respectfully asked to remove my mask. I'm 6 feet away from you and I can't talk and read at the same time through a mask, so I apologize for that. This entire building purchase and now financing has been a problem to me for almost 3 years. I started December 11th of 2017 with a man by the name of Hal McCoy, who's originally from Winfield, was a popular tennis player in the 60s and very well known in Winfield circles, and myself and Joe Messina, the then plant manager of K-Square or Western Industries. We planned to buy both the big toy building and the K-Square West building, that'd be the furthest north building at that time, and lease them to Western Industries for their continued use as a plastic manufacturer. Fast forward about 1.5 years, Hal and I separated company. Hal had a prototype of a hospital bed that he was manufacturing using plastic parts and other things. It was kind of a Murphy bed folded out of the side of a wall. And he was going to make a manufacturing company out of his, and he was going into the north building with his company. Therefore, there was no reason for me to be a partner in his. I didn't want to be a partner in his company, nor do I think he wanted me to, so it was a mutual thing. Hal bought that building about 6 months before I signed a contract to buy the big toy building. I go through all this because it's been over 3 years of negotiating. I finally got the building bought. Through that time, Kerry Folletti, by the way, was with me at the first meeting, December 17th, and I've got a picture of all of us at Hal McCoy's house, December 11th, 2017, going over what bond financing we could get, what tax abatements we could get, and so on through the various ownerships and methods. Regardless of all of that, I separated. Hal bought his building. I got my building bought on contract. At some point in this, and it was one of the early, I'm going to say over 2 years ago, we also involved Sean McGrew in the discussions. My buying of the big toy building was to include the addition of another 100,000 square feet directly south of the big toy building. The big toy building is a 100,000 square foot building. I was mimicking the building with 100,000 feet right beside it. Half of that building was to be rented immediately to K-Square for their growth. The other half I was going to maintain as part of my warehouse. I have almost a 500,000 square feet of warehouse space in and around Arc City. And this would have been a $50,000 addition to my warehousing space, allowing me to, as K-Square further grew into that 100,000 feet, I'd just simply pull out and warehouse in other buildings. That's one of the flexibilities and availabilities of my business. For this reason, this was a great deal for me personally, for my company, and for Western Industries. I no sooner got the contract signed that Sean McGrew told me that Strother Field, he thought, had a first right of refusal to buy any building that was being bought by an outside investor, which I would become. I didn't know of any such rule, didn't know of anything, but I said, why would you? What possible reason would you have to knock me out of this deal? I'm buying an existing building, leasing it to the same customer that's in there, going to build another 100,000 foot building, and will agree to build a standpipe at a cost of about $250,000 that Hal McCoy and I, with 2 buildings, so 3 buildings, would have shared the cost of that standpipe, which would have saved us about $30,000 a year on our insurance, and provided better water source for Strother Field. Well, I don't care, I think we're interested in buying it, he told me. So, things moved along. I heard Strother Field was having a meeting on this building to buy it, to take over my contract. I went to the meeting. Jay Warren and Mayor Welch was there and heard me. Basically, I was asked if I wanted to say anything. I stood up and said, yeah, folks, I'm buying this building. I have plans of building another building. I'm here to basically see if you bless what I'm doing. They immediately went into a 20-minute executive session and came out of it and agreed to buy a $1,200,000 building with no more thought than that if you listen to their story. They didn't have but 20 minutes to decide to spend $1,200,000 of taxpayers' money on a building. For what reason? I don't know. So I went back to the next meeting and I said, guys, I didn't go through all this with you. I didn't see reason to. I didn't have any idea that you'd be interested in buying it. I've heard Sean tell you that he's lost $57,000 this year in operating so far. We're losing $57,000 and you're going to come up with $1.2 million to buy a building? How are you going to do that? Well, oh no. I called the commissioners later that night and the next morning. I got one of them to return the call. One. And he simply told me, Jim, we decided not to talk to you about it. It's something we've decided to do. It's best for us. So I've done some looking since. And what I've found is several things that just galls me. As a private investor, as a taxpayer in this county, and as a citizen of Arc City, Kansas. The building that Hal bought, he got a 10-year exemption, industrial revenue bond exemption, taking that building off the tax rolls, $40,000+ a year, taken off the tax rolls. Over a year ago, not been one hospital bed manufactured in that building. It's only been leased to Western Industries. Still is, hasn't changed a thing, except it's off the tax rolls. That's against the rules. I don't know if it's law or just the rules of industrial financing, industrial revenue financing. A private investor cannot use industrial revenue bonds to finance a deal to rent it to a tenant. Can't do it. I believe it's a law. I'm going to say it's a rule. I'm not sure either. But that's what's happening. So that building's off the tax rolls. The $1 million building that was a truck terminal went into a bankruptcy. I actually offered $240,000 for it. Talked to the county tax assessor. I won't call her an appraiser. She's not. She's an assessor. And asked her what the taxes would be at $240,000, and she told me, Jim, we don't have to accept that just because that's what you pay for it. We're going to keep the taxes at $22,000 a year if you buy it. Well, why would you do that? because the county's gonna buy it and make it their street or their road improvement district for all of Cali County. They're gonna merge the three and put them in there. The county ended up buying it for $160,000. Goodbye. And they took it off the Strother Field Commission took it off the tax rolls. Another $22,000 lost. Shouldn't have been 22, should have been like 3 to 4 based on that value. But we lost that 22,000. Today I find out the Strother Field Commission buys this building. It comes off the tax rolls. I had $55,000 a year plugged into the taxes on this building when I was buying it. It was actually at $65,000. The former owner protested the taxes based on my purchase price and got it brought down to $55,000 a year on $1.3 million, which is what I gave for the building. Now I see the city has got to come up and approve a method of financing the $1,300,000 on the backs of all the taxpayers. The first thing that's happened, if you've listened to everything I've said, you've taken $120,000 in taxes out of the county, which is really spreading it over everybody in the county because two cities own the property. That isn't fair to everybody else in the county. That may be right for the cities. It's not fair to everybody else in the county. 2/3 of the people have no stake in Strother Field in Cali County, but they'll get to pay their share of the taxes. That isn't right. I don't know what kind of a deal you've got. I'm gonna let you make your speech next on financing this building. I know the one thing about this whole deal, if you had first right of refusal, which I believe the Strother Field Commission had the right of refusal, it says in it, you will take over and do as my contract or the purchase contract says. Strother Field did not do that. Strother Field did not follow my purchase contract. I had 3 stops in that purchase contract specifically to guarantee myself that I wouldn't get stuck on financing, to guarantee myself I wouldn't get stuck on costs of improving the building or putting it back up. I have an estimate for $150,000 to repair the sprinkler system in that building. Karen, are you aware of anything since you purchased this building about the sprinkler system being repaired? And is the city's gonna have to spend it, or is the county or the Strother Field Commission gonna have to spend it? I don't know. Not my problem. The financing is. Don't finance something you took away from me back on me. I'm not gonna pay the payments on it twice. I don't like any part of this deal. I don't understand any part of this deal. I could not understand private enterprise having to compete with the very government that I support. I support you financially, I supported you with my own time and effort, and I support you morally for the jobs that you're doing. I really do. But this is wrong. It's been wrong for 6 months. I don't know how to stop it other than keep protesting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation, Jim. Is there anyone else that wants to make a comment?
I'd like to know which building it is. He says toy building. I have no clue which toy building is. I know of some of the buildings, but all I know is that most of them are, all but the far north one is. You have pictured, Andrew?
The easiest way to tell you is go right up Old 77 on the west side of the field. There's 2 buildings there. The first one's the white building we call the big toy building. The north one is what we call K-Square West.
That's way to the west side of the field.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the reason the water problem is they do have an 8-inch water line now that goes over there, but there's no backup of water. If GE would have a fire, there'd be no water on the west side of the field. So we were going to put a standpipe in at the, not the insistence, they encouraged me. Our insurance company, the insurance was $50,000 on my building, and I think 40 on the house. They gave us almost $10,000 per building break if we put a standpipe in. And I was building the 3rd building that would add an additional $30,000. The standpipe was gonna cost us $150,000. It would have been served by that 8-inch line. All the buildings would have come out of that standpipe, their water to keep it constantly refreshed, whatever. And it wouldn't belong to structure, we'd had to give it to people.
So
We'd have put the improvement.
you're currently using that building, that north building, as a warehouse?
Am I? No. The north building is being leased right now by Hal McCoy to Western Industries for their storage and assembly, actually, is what it's being used for.
And you own the toy building.
I bought the toy building under contract. It's what I'm complaining about. As soon as I signed
Okay.
the contract, or within 2 weeks of signing the contract and trying to fulfill all the steps of the contract, one of them was to go to the Field Commission for approval of the growth that we were gonna put in the area. There was 24 acres with that building. It runs clear back to Old 77. 24 acres. I had 3 buildings planned in the future. First one was on paper. It's ready to go. The next 2 were in my vision, I'm gonna call it. They're 3 to 5 years old. But we'd have had 4 buildings up there in 6 years.
And you have a,
Other side of the field. The other side of the field. That's the east side of the field.
Go west,
Go west, young man, go west.
past the fields,
There you go. Now go west, go west. There you
right
go.
there, those two.
Okay, the south building, the bottom building is the building I bought. If you go south a little bit on your picture, just keep moving until I say, all that ground to the south, keep going, keep going, keep going, there.
The
All that
222nd road.
ground goes clear down to that road. One of the building sites is about his arrow straight across to the west. Then you see the draw. That area I was giving to Strother Field. That is actually a drainage of everything west of that area. It's unbuildable on it, it'd actually be a flood area, so I actually told Sean, I said, Sean, I'll give you a 50-foot easement across there to drain anything west of there, because I can't build on either one. My sites to build was south of that draw, and then if you'll slowly go back up to the building, there you go. There's 2 more sites, a little higher with your arrow and straight across. That would be the site next to the building. That gray area is about 20 feet from the building. For fire restriction rules, because of the 100,000 square feet buildings, we had to be 40 feet apart. So we'd have been another 20 south of that building. I could have connected the 2, and we talked about that, would have been done at a later date, with actually an alley or the alley was immediately covered alleyway, would have been done probably over the next couple of years as they grew into the entire building. The building that I was gonna build was gonna duplicate that building, truck docks on both ends, just like that. The only difference was one side, probably the west side, the truck docks would have been at the north end and the south end, so they've been slightly offset. The parking on that building is obviously the north side of the building. The parking on my other building would have been on the east and west side, directly joining the truck docks, so it would have all been paved in front of the building. That was the plan. The lease was with Western Industries for 10 years. We would have asked for 10-year tax abatement on that half of the building. I could not get it on my half because of the warehousing business. I'd only had 1 or 2 full-time employees at that building. As it where it grew into it, we might have been able to ask for another extension on that side, but I don't think that would have been necessary the way we had planned. The problem now is Western Industries still looking to me, and they're talking to other people, but I'm the most flexible, I guess I'm gonna call it, to them, and they'd like for me to do something with it. I have no ground to build it on. I have that building, going into that building gave me the collateral to do what we call rolling financing. I'd have bought that building and financed it. I'd used the equity in that building to start the next building, the equity in the 2 buildings to start the 3rd one, and finally the 4th. That was the plan. By taking the building away from me, you've killed all those plans, including Western Industries' desire to grow in the next 12 months. There's nothing I can do in 12 months, I can promise you, and I don't believe anybody else is gonna do anything for them any quicker. And I don't know if the 2 cities or the Strother Field Commission has agreed to do any of the things I agreed to do in my contract. I don't think they have. I know of 3 things you did not follow. The Strother Field Commission did not follow in my contract.
Is this the only property or building Strotherfield would be owning out there?
I'm sorry?
This is not the only property or building Strotherfield owns and leases to people, correct?
I don't know of anything except for the truck terminal down below that they rent to the salvage yard.
They do own GE
No, they do not. They don't even own the ground.
They
on
do.
GE. They own the ground on GE, I'm sorry.
and the
They
buildings?
own the ground, and they have a rent for the ground. As a matter of fact, AC Industries owns one of the GE buildings. And AC Industries, Flex Rent from GE, and turns around and pays a grand.
I mean, this meeting, that Strotherfield meeting they were at, it was discussed by the commission, the Strotherfield Commission, which is a county commissioner, 3 Winfield and 3 city commissioners, is myself, Mayor Welch, and Commissioner Warren were there for that meeting.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna correct you right now. There's only 2 commissioners from each city on that commission. You took the place of Commissioner Warren because he was on vacation.
There's 3 on there. I was at that
There's 3 on
meeting.
there.
I was there when you met, because there's another business there.
Second meeting when Jay was gone.
I was there at another one because Brandon was there speaking on Vector. I was there for the executive session, and I was there for that, sir. So there's 3 of us, 3 commissioners, 3 Winfield, 3 Kansas City commissioners, and a county.
So there's a quorum of Ark City's commissioners there at that meeting?
And Winfield's, there's 3 of each.
And there's a public meeting from each city represented at that meeting?
That's the way, I didn't set the board up that way.
There was no press at that meeting?
It's not my,
I didn't see anybody.
so, nope, it wasn't.
And I never saw, I
So
saw
there's-
2 of
there's-
them. First time I saw Jay and Karen, the second time I saw you and Karen.
Yeah,
Jay was on
there's 3 of us on that, and I don't know how long that's been. It's how it was when I got on, appointed 3 of us. That's how it's always been. So, it's ours, in the last 6 months, it's
make
at
a
least been that
comment.
way, or 9 months, I guess, since I've been on. But when we were there, it was discussed, and it was voted at that time to approve the purchase of that 7-0 at the Strotherfield Commission. I mean,
And did you follow the contract that I bought?
we were told to follow, we had to, under the agreement, is when someone goes to buy it, if we want first right of refusal, from what I was understanding, which maybe I was wrong, is we have to buy it at that purchase price. So if he would have come in and said, we couldn't have said, no, we want first right of refusal, instead of buying at 1.2, which is actually 1.3 million, I believe, we couldn't say, we'll do it for 900,000. We had to go at the price that someone outside of that was to buy it. And so we had to follow his price. We couldn't change that amount. That was how I understood that.
Okay, I was
So-
under the impression you had followed my terms.
We had to follow
Price is not the only
the
thing.
price is how I took it. Now, if there's other things within that, I may be mistaken, but that's how I understood that, so.
I'm telling you, I was told.
So that's why we couldn't change the price of it. Part of that discussion within that by the Strotherfield Commission at the time was also discussing, yes, if we don't pay the taxes on it, that was an issue for a majority of the people there, is if a government entity is gonna own it and they're not gonna pay the taxes or put the tax money back into the tax roll, that money needs to be put somewhere. Now, however you wanna do it, if you wanna do it for improvements for just that 25 acres throughout the next 20 years, or if you wanna use that funds for streets or utilities or whatever you wanna do at Strotherfield, that would be a way to do that. I know part of this agreement also was Strotherfield is one of the only sustaining entities that does not have, basically the citizens of Ark City and Winfield don't have on their taxes Strotherfield. Yes, they could, but they're self-sustaining right now. And they thought this would be another way, they as in us, to help maintain that self-sustaining ability by getting this property and getting lease out of it. Yes, could the citizens of Ark City and the citizens of Winfield have to pay the 1.3, which I guess would be 650,000? Yes, if everything goes horribly, we could be on the hook for it, yes. I mean, is the odds of that happening great? I don't think any of us think that's a possibility, or we would have just told Jim, have at it. You know, I don't think the risk was there.
Bad deal, I could have had it, but a good deal, I couldn't.
Well, I mean, it was our ability, just like, it's just like the other properties, so, yeah. But I mean, that's kind of the thinking along the lines at that Strotherfield meeting, yes.
$55,000 a year that you're taking away from the county.
What was discussed at the time is if it's not gonna go to the county, it should be put into something so that it can be used for improvements at Strotherfield, so that money will at least be put somewhere. Now, has it been set up, has it been done that way? I don't know, but that was the discussion had.
So you're balancing your budget that you were losing.
Well, I mean,
Off my back, is that
you
right?
know, this is from Sean McGrew, dated August 14, 2020. It says the year-to-date net income is 84,000. July income was 122. Sales of services at 51% of projected budget, up 10,000. General revenue is at 65%, up 13,000. Field revenue is at 58%, up 21,000. So that was the last one as of August 14th we received financially.
Operating profit, he
That is our July financials, which obviously we wouldn't have had August by that point because of it only being August 14th. So that was just what we got. So if we're losing money, it was not brought up that I was aware of. So, and I'm not trying to argue, I'm just telling you, these are the facts that we were presented, and this is how we were discussing it at our meeting. Now, it can be taken a lot of different ways, and this is just how I perceived it, which may be different than the other 5 or 6 people. And so that's why it was how it was addressed. So, again, this is just me looking at what I have in front of me and the numbers that were presented. So, I mean, yeah, that's all I have.
With Jim being against it, well, you are.
No, it's all right. Yeah, I am.
I mean,
I'm dead against it.
I would like to table it for second reading and invite Strotherfield's attorney to express
Which
this.
is, yeah, it's Bill Muir, it's the city
Bill
of
Muir,
Winfield
yeah.
city attorney.
And he's Strotherfield attorney too. He's one.
Sean.
And Sean, to get everything straightened out before we make a decision.
Well, I mean, a lot of it's already been straightened out for the most part, but we can get them to answer your question. I mean, it's all been done legally through the attorneys of everyone. So, I mean, from the emails I was given, but
Discourage anybody or say anybody
So.
anything illegal, unethically, maybe, and certainly not to the extent of improving the community with our industry or our taxpayers, is my main objection at this point. I told you I stand for all three, but the problem I see is you've set a dangerous precedent to discourage private investors.
the Strotherfield Commission has.
And you're one of those commissioners.
Yes, no, I know, but I don't want to be reflective of all the city committee. It's the Strotherfield Commission.
You're the majority, you said the 3 commissioners.
I do see what you're saying.
So the majority of the city.
Yeah, I agree. I
commissioners
see what you're saying.
And the majority of the commission of Winfield discouraged a private investor from investing in the community what would have been $4 million over the next 2 years. You've hurt the chances of a existing industry to grow over the next 2 years.
Assuming they're not gonna grow anymore.
You have no plan to expand the buildings like I've talked. Have you talked to anybody, has Sean McGrew talked to anybody about expanding?
I'm sure Sean has been in discussions with those. I don't know of any
this
direct
financing
ones.
You're talking about today is only a.
So, I mean, you'd have to get Sean here for that. Or talk to Sean. I'd like to hear what he would have to say about some of that.
That's why I suggest to have him come in.
I'll second Dwayne's motion.
I have a motion and a second for a tabling of number 5, consideration read the first ordinance of Strotherfield Airport. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And
Oh.
do we have to go roll call?
Not table.
Okay, we're going to table. To September 18th. Manager updates.
So if Jim gets to take his off, I do too. Okay, so, the bond call rating happened yesterday and it was really good. And I wanna thank Kathy and Jennifer for all the hard work they did prior to that, because that was an incredible, bond rating call. It was very quick and it just felt good.
They were nice, right?
So we
Yeah.
maintained our bond rating?
Well, we don't know that yet.
We should know by September 8th or 9th, and we will have a special meeting on the 22nd to finalize those bonds.
Okay.
That will be a
Okay.
special meeting.
What date?
The 22nd, it'll be Tuesday, the 22nd, at 5:30 if we can do that.
I don't think I'm busy. Are you busy?
Do we need to do that now or later?
It'll be
Approve a
on the
date.
next meeting. It'll be
We'll do the 15th, okay?
But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that they had a good call out on that, because they did a great job.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Jennifer.
Where she is.
And then, one more clarification. So the federal funds that we've been reimbursed, what was the actual title of those? You left already.
$33,000
Yeah.
federal exchange match.
There you go. Those were based on the Compass Point project. So some of the dollars that we talked about the other day of the city expending on it have been reimbursed as well, so we want to clarify that, so.
Whole 562,000?
No, there was 400,000 from the MIH grant and then another 220-some thousand, so there's still a shortage, you know, there's about $90-some thousand difference there, I think. I don't have it in front of me, but a good chunk of it was reimbursed that way, so. Tomorrow they'll have the annual levy inspection, and then just a reminder, City Hall's closed on September 7th for Labor Day. And then work session on the 11th at noon, and then a public building commission meeting will be just before the next commission meeting at 5:15. So keep that in mind.
Oh, that's where you got the bike.
I made it today on time for that.
That's all I got.
Cool.
I want to thank the city workers who have mowed those dikes all day. They are beautiful.
Seems like the last week they've been
Working on
a
all
lot
week.
of mowing lately.
That's just awesome. Is there anything further? Anyone from the audience, anything? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You're excused.
Thank you.